And hello everybody, welcome back to British Stand. A bit of breaking news for you this afternoon. As you can read there in the title, one of Starmer's allies, that of course being Morgan McSweeney, has now resigned following the Peter Mandelson fallout. Could Starmer be next? Yes, this is a development that I feel we seen coming, but with Labour, zero of them usually take any accountability. In the days after this sort of scandal erupting, all we've heard from sort of Labour MPs is saving their own skin and saying, oh, we warned Starmer. No, well, I didn't really like Peter Mandelson. I didn't know of him that much. Well, yeah, I didn't know anything that was happening. All of them coming out, not taking any accountability, including the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and again, just trying to move on as if nothing happened. However, there has been somebody that has resigned today, the Chief of Staff, that of course being Morgan McSweeney, and he has taken some accountability. Can you actually believe that inside the Labour Party? Now, is this to try and save Keir Starmer, or is Keir Starmer going to be the next one to resign? Anyway, let's get into this story. Let's go through his resignation letter. But as always, guys, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more. And do get involved in the live chat. We'll be taking your reaction in a moment. So, as you can see, breaking, Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, resigns over Mandelson scandal as Prime Minister clings on to power. Now, Morgan McSweeney, in a full resignation statement, said, after careful reflection, I've decided to resign from the government. The decision to appoint Peter Mandelson was wrong. He has damaged our party, our country, and trust in politics itself. When asked, I advised the Prime Minister to make that appointment, and I take full responsibility for that advice. In public life, responsibility must be owned when it matters most, not just when it's most convenient. In the circumstances, the only honourable course is to step aside. This has not been an easy decision. Much has been written and said about me over the years, but my motivations have always been simple. I have worked every day to elect and support a government that puts the lives of ordinary people first and lead us to a better future for our great country. Only a Labour government will do that. Bullshit. I leave with pride in all we have achieved, mixed with regret at the circumstances of my departure, but I've always believed there are moments when you must accept your responsibility and step aside for the bigger cause. As I leave, I have two further reflections. Firstly, and most importantly, we must remember the women and girls whose lives were ruined by Jeffrey Epstein and whose voices went unheard for far too long. Secondly, while I did not oversee the due diligence and vetting progress, I believe that process must now be fundamentally overhauled. This cannot simply be a gesture, but a safeguard for the future. I remain fully supportive of the Prime Minister. He is working every day to rebuild trust, restore standards, and serve the country. I will continue to back the mission in whatever way I can. It's been the honor of my life to serve. Now, this is a fairly interesting resignation statement, in my personal opinion. Yes, he takes accountability for putting the onus on him. However, I find this bit here fairly interesting indeed as well. Now, this bit is secondly, while I do not oversee the due diligence and vetting process, so he wasn't responsible for it. So whilst he's taking the brunt of it, he's the guy who's saying, I'm going to step aside because, I'm the Chief of Staff and whatnot. But he didn't actually say, I did not oversee the due diligence and vetting process. I believe that process must now fundamentally be overhauled. So he's not taking any accountability for that side of things. So that means that still rests with the Prime Minister, does it not, in terms of the vetting process of Peter Mandelson? That's an interesting point that he left out there. But Morgan McSweeney has gone, guys. And of course, as you know, this has erupted and is breaking news. A lot of people, of course, jumping on this now as we speak. But his resignation notice, takes some accountability. But again, it's not, he almost feels like he's been the sort of sacrifice for Keir Starmer here. Keir Starmer's the next person that needs to go as well. Keir needs to go as well. And now this might just be the first one in a long line. We're starting to get a little bit of rumors that Keir Starmer might be on his way. But if you know Keir, we've reported on Keir for a very long time. And Keir isn't going to go that easily. Keir is not going to step down without a fight. And in fact, I don't think he will ever resign. Even though he has to right now. He has to. He did the same thing to Boris Johnson over a piece of cake. He did it to Boris Johnson over the 12 major U-turns that Johnson made as Prime Minister and called him out publicly for those standards. Keir has went further and faster, as in his own words, did 15 major U-turns, and of course has appointed Peter Mandelson and stood by him despite what we knew about it. But this is a good step in the right direction. Morgan McSweeney's out of the door. Next, will it be Keir Starmer? Let's get a little bit more reaction from this as this news is breaking.
And let me bring you some breaking news now. Morgan McSweeney, Downing Street Chief of Staff, has just resigned. In the past few moments, we've received a statement. Let me read it to you. After careful reflection, I have decided to resign from the government. The decision. We
already know the data. We've read that. Let's try and get a little bit
this
more
cannot
reaction.
Cross live now to our political editor, Beth Rigby, who joins us now on the line. Beth, this news from Morgan McSweeney, which many, has to be said, had been expecting.
Yes, Barbara, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff and his right-hand man for a number of years has just stepped down from Downing Street and sent me that statement moments ago, which you have just read out on air. He has basically taken the fall in what is a burgeoning crisis for the Prime Minister, and really the pressure has been building for days on Morgan McSweeney and Keir Starmer that someone needed to take responsibility for the decision to put Peter Mandelson back into government as the ambassador to the US for the UK last February. You know, he was sacked in September, but since the revelations over the weekend of the Epstein files from the US government, the pressure has been building. And in that statement, you can see Morgan McSweeney here taking responsibility, saying the decision was wrong. He says, clearly, I advised the Prime Minister to make that appointment, and I take full responsibility for that advice. In public life, responsibility must be owned when it matters most. He goes on to say it wasn't an easy decision. He said much has been written and said over me over years, but my motivations have been simple: to work every day to elect and support a government putting the lives of ordinary people first. He goes on with two further reflections. One is to remember the victims, the women and girls whose lives were ruined by Epstein, and voices who went unheard. And he also talks about the due diligence and vetting process. He makes a point here that he did not oversee the due diligence and vetting process. He says that the process must now be fundamentally overhauled. This has to be a safeguard for the future. And I think there's a clue there as well, which is what the Prime Minister was talking about on Thursday, that the vetting process let down. The Prime Minister certainly saying that the vetting process didn't throw things up that should have been revealed. And Morgan McSweeney there also saying that the vetting process wasn't fit for purpose and should be overhauled. But look, Barbara, the big issue of all of this was Keir Starmer had been holding on to Morgan McSweeney as his Chief of Staff in the recent days. The pressure had been building, but clearly there has been a decision in number 10, and maybe it was Morgan McSweeney himself that something had to give. And Morgan McSweeney really is resigning now in order, if you like, to try and save the Prime Minister and to take a bit of heat from the Prime Minister, from his backbenchers and his party, who are absolutely furious at what has unfolded.
Now, I don't think that's going to be enough. This is what it looks like, right? It looks like, right, so one of us needs to go. And if you go, I can save myself here and then everything's going to be okay. Wrong. Now, they can talk about the due diligence of the vetting process all they like. I've said it time and time again. Go back to a video about a year ago of me talking about Peter Mandelson. It's on there, on a live stream, wherever it is, when we were talking about him being appointed as the US ambassador. I spoke clearly then about him, of course, staying at Epstein's gaff. You don't need a rigorous vetting process to find out that this guy is a wrong'un, right? Because this information was privy to the public domain 18 months prior to his appointment. I think my camera's gone off. I think I've got no battery. Just bear with me for a moment. I'm going to have to do it on my webcam. My battery's run out of... my battery on my camera's run out. Apologies. But either way, they knew. They knew that he was a wrong, and they knew that he stayed at Epstein's gaff whilst he was serving a prison sentence. That's the reality here. That's the truth here. And again, that was information that was there in the public domain for all of us to see. And now they're trying to say that there should have been a more rigorous vetting process. It was already there. The information was already there. So I don't understand why they keep on saying there should have been this, should have been that. Keir has got to go as well. This is not, it's not out of those two. It was, yes, both of them need to go. Morgan McSweeney had to go. Yes, you're right. Well done. One down. Now Keir needs to go. Two, he's also got to go. He can't just use somebody else to take the flak for him. And I know the tactic they're trying to do here. They're trying to make it, right, you go, then I can stay. No, that's not going to cut it, Keir. You've got to go as well. That's the reality. And Keir knew about it. Let's stop pretending that Keir had no idea of it. This morning we spoke about David Lammy trying to come out this morning and try and saving his own skin as he's trying to vie up for a leadership campaign. Here also, David Lammy was a guy that came out and said, oh, Peter Mandelson's such a great guy, loads of experience, the right man for the job. And the same wording was coming out of Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer backed him. It was also his decision. He can try and gaslight the nation now by taking Morgan McSweeney and making him take the brunt of it. But Keir also needs to take the responsibility as well. And that is step down as leader of the Labour Party and as the Prime Minister of this country. Now, I would say he needs to take a leaf out of Rishi Sunak's book. And some of you may go, whoa, what do you mean by Rishi Sunak? Rishi Sunak listened to the British public, right? I didn't think Rishi Sunak was that bad. He inherited a whole lot of mess from lots of Conservative MPs. And again, that's probably going to go down as an unpopular opinion there. But compared to Keir Starmer, it was night and day. Much better, more competent than Keir Starmer. And what Rishi Sunak did is said, I have listened to the British people and you guys deserve to have the choice and have a general election, called the election, step down as the Conservative leader and then resigned. And that was it. Handing his resignation into the king. I remember that speech outside number 10. Keir Starmer should be doing the exact same because if the shoe was on the other foot, he would be calling for it. We've seen it with Boris Johnson for, 2022, and he would still be doing it now if the Tories were in power. And this is the thing. This guy lives on a double standard. He's hypocritical. He doesn't live by the same standard that he gave out there. All of the information is out there to see of what he was like and how he treated Boris Johnson when this scandal was going, and rightfully so. But a bit of cake, and this, again, is night and day. Keir is doing, this is a worse scandal, more worse scandal than a piece of cake. And on that fact, he needs to go. It's simple as that. Keir Starmer needs to go. One happened. Happy days. Morgan McSweeney's gone, but Keir also needs to go. Guys, let's get some live reaction here from you guys from the live chat. Rich was bad as all of them. Yeah, well, okay, maybe I don't backpedal on it a little bit, but compared to Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak was a lot better than Keir Starmer. Let me just put that there. I stand by that. A lot better than Keir Starmer. And I use the word a lot better. Not to say he was competent and not to say he was a good prime minister, but he was better than Keir Starmer. That's a fact. Do you think a man dressed as a woman should teach children? No. Next question. I don't know why you want rid of Starmer. What we'll get instead is a lot worse. Good point. Now, again, I stand by this point here because the reason, okay, this is crazy thinking, I know, right? But Keir Starmer should be resigning on principle of this whole scandal. And yes, what we will inherit is a whole lot worse. Angela Rayner, David Lammy, Ed Miliband, it's being reported this morning, Wes Streeting potentially, but then they will need to call a general election. That's my next hope. They'll be pressured into pushing and calling for a sort of general election. I know it's, maybe a bit optimistic thinking, but the leaders that will take over Keir Starmer have said time and time again they will change the path of the direction of where the Labour Party is going. So that wasn't in their manifesto pledges. So then indeed, no one voted for that in the country. So then should have to call a general election. That's the right thing to do. They need to call a general election if Keir Starmer steps down. Will they? Well, that's a different answer. Morgan McSneaky and No Idea Keir. It's not that hard to be better than Starmer. Yeah, I know. I don't want people making out that I'm some Rishi Sunak supporter, by the way. Just to put out there, I'm not. And I'm not a Tory either. Just to put that also out there. But compared to Keir Starmer, a lot better. Advance UK. I wager £50 the scumbag stays till 2028. Probably. Now, the thing is with the Labour Party and what we're getting in from inside the Labour Party, the information that's coming out is that it's obviously split. They can't command a majority of their seats right now. It's complete. There's infighting. It's a massive civil war inside the Labour Party. And what we're seeing in real time is them, of course, eating each other alive in there. You got Lammy coming out this morning saying, I warned Keir Starmer. This is a deputy prime minister. He's in Starmer's cabinet. Now he's coming out to try and take some slack off of him and going, I told you so. I told this man so. And he didn't listen to me, essentially, whilst he was actually out there on a Sky News interview saying that he was the best man for the job. Wes Streeting distancing himself away from Peter Mandelson. They all loved him. Everyone inside that party loved him. And everyone inside that party knew what he was all about and decided that he was the right man for the job. Shit bust. I don't care about this due diligence. I also don't care about this vetting. This is nonsense because we knew some details about Peter Mandelson already. So they knew. So I don't buy into all that crap. And yeah, the Labour Party now are going to find themselves in a situation where if Keir doesn't resign, they are going to try and build a leadership bid to oust him. That's fact. We're hearing it. When you hear information coming out, leaking out, or into the papers, into the Guardian, a left-wing paper, so to speak, when you're hearing Labour MPs talk about it, it actually does come true. Now, before the turn of the year, we spoke a lot here on the channel about Andy Burnham, that he was going to try and oust Keir Starmer for the leadership position. And what happens in January? Well, we see an MP give up his seat, trigger a by-election, and then you see Andy Burnham trying to take the seat. If he wasn't blocked and was able to stand in that seat and in that by-election, he would have got into Westminster and then would have ousted Starmer. And there's nothing Starmer can do about that if someone triggers a leadership provision and gets enough people, MPs behind them. And the same thing now. You got Angela Rayner building a £1 million war chest. You got Ed Miliband throwing his hat in this morning. You're hearing about Shabana Mahmood. You're hearing about David Lammy. So they are obviously behind the scenes, a lot of these egotistical thinking, I could do this job, and they will do it. Watch May. If Keir Starmer survives this, which is looking likely, he probably will, because it's Keir Starmer and he won't resign. The guy doesn't have any morals whatsoever. Watch what happens in May. If it's going to be a bloodbath, which it will be, in terms of the local elections, he will be ousted by those Labour MPs inside there. They will launch a leadership position and go on the sort of idea that, we've completely bottomed out in these local elections. We need a change, and then they'll oust him just like that. And that will be it. Watch it. I'm calling it now here in February. Keir Starmer won't see out the year. My personal opinion. Despite him talking about 2029 and beyond, he won't. Watch the May local elections. He'll be gone, I think, by the end of the year. My personal opinion here. Has Hasn't another Starmer Envoy emerged now? I haven't heard too much. A little bit of information, but not too much. I'm looking forward to seeing what actually happens with that, actually, to be fair. And sorry for the camera, by the way. I'm speaking as if I'm looking at my camera, but I've got the webcam on. Sorry, my battery ran out for some weird. So yeah. Lammy is a dafty. Yeah, he is. Bottomed out. What's Starmer's history? Why is he a sir, and how has he got so much power in Labour? Well, the reason why he's a sir is because of his commitment and contributions to prosecution and law. So it's not from him being a prime minister. It's nothing to do with politics on why he got his knighthood. It's more so for his time as a prosecutor and as a lawyer. So yeah, it's not for his work in politics. You want to bet? Are we making a £50 bet? Is it a bet? You want the £50 bet for if Keir's going to be ousted by May? Why not? I might do one. If someone wants to bet me, I'll bet one person. I refuse to call any of them sir. The one that I can never get behind is what's his name? Sadiq Khan. I don't know how that guy's got a sir. His was actually for his work in politics and public service. No idea how he managed to get that. But the knighthood's lost its charm now, you know? And this is not me being against and anti-English and stuff like that, but why did Gareth Southgate get a knighthood? It was almost rewarding failure. Now, in a way, I understand. You know, you win the World Cup, you get knighted. The manager gets knighted for that sporting achievement. We didn't win a World Cup. We came runners-up in Euros. That's them rewarding failure. In yesteryears, you only got it for, you know, getting gold in the Olympics, winning something. The England team in 1966, the World Cup, they got knighted, or a lot of the players got knighted. And that was on merit for winning. Gareth Southgate getting a knighthood for finishing second. I don't believe it. I love it. I love England national team, but no, I don't think that's how it should work. The same thing with Sadiq Khan. Why did he get knighted? It's almost like a time served as London mayor, not the results that he produced. Guys, we've got a £5 donation. Thank you so much, Gaz, for your generosity. What an absolute legend, man. £5 donation says, thanks for the time and effort you put into this channel, Dan. Great work. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you for everybody for tuning in for the channel. Guys, if you haven't already, please do hit like, hit subscribe. We're closing on 300,000 subscribers, and we'll keep you up to date with everything that happens over the next few days. Ben Habib for the people. He likes us a lot. He's a real patriot. Now, I know that I've been hearing a lot about Advance UK recently, and I know the subscribers on this channel actually come from Reform supporters. There's Advance UK, and I think I've even seen a couple of Tories in here time and time. But regardless, we all have a kind of a right-wing perspective of politics, centre-right, right. You know, we want the best for our country, and we can all agree that Labour are completely destroying the country. That's it. When will Lammy get his knighthood? Again, don't be surprised if he ever gets a knighthood. It's rewarding failure. Simple as that. Imagine. Much appreciated. Knighted for services to knife and phone snatch. Knife crime and phone snatching. Yeah. Evie. Reform to fix the country. See, there's a lot of Advance UK and a lot of Reform UK. Now, I understand the idea between both, but I think Reform and Advance would be very good parties to have. I wouldn't be voting anyone else other than Reform or Advance UK in Britain. But the problem is, the question is, if Advance builds a lot of momentum up, could that then split the right? Because when the general election comes around, I wouldn't be surprised that Labour are going to be so much in the dirt that they then decide to make a sort of coalition with the Lib Dems or the Green Party just to get Reform not into power. You'll see it when we gear up to 2029. It'll be like Operation Stop Reform and Farage from getting into number 10. And it will be all like these left-wing governments making a bit of a coalition together and then, you know, combining their votes together. And you may have to then see, I don't know, it might even be a case of Reform and the Tories coming together. And you never know. You never know what's going to happen in 2029, especially how desperate these liberals and these left-wing parties get to stay in power. Unite the right, for fuck's sake. Sorry for my French, but I was reading your comment. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I understand from a perspective of things. I think I like Nigel. I have nothing wrong with Nigel that much at all, really. But I also understand people's reservations towards the Reform Party with all these Tory MPs coming in. I understand it. And look, I'm just a commentator right now. And again, with politics, I sit on the sidelines. Really, I'm not. I don't treat it like a football team. I'm obviously, you know me, I'm on the right, of course. I mean, I'm never going to be on the left. But I'm not loyal to a party in terms of like a football team. You know, I'm not living. I wait to see, and when the time is right, I'll decide who I vote for on that and in that moment. But right now, there's a long way to go, and it'll make a judgment based on where the country is by then. But I like the work that Ben does, and I like the work that Nigel does, and yeah, I think they're doing some great stuff. But I understand people's reservations for both. I understand why Reform don't want people voting for Advance because they're going to, again, split the vote. And then I understand some Advance voters not being too keen on the Reform plan. So I understand it from both sides. But yeah, I don't look at politics like a football team or anything like that. I decide on the moment. Starmer wants 3 terms. I think that guy wants a dictatorship. If he had his way, he would have a dictatorship. Yeah. Pretty Mia says, let's not run before we crawl. Starmer needs to be out. Well, one of the subscribers in this chat made a very good point to me, actually. And he said, well, if Starmer goes, do you think it could get worse? And I actually stand by that. Because if Starmer was to go, well, Starmer's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. Don't get me wrong. But do you genuinely believe, sitting right here now, that Angela Rayner, David Lammy, Shabana Mahmood, Ed Miliband, Wes Streeting, do you think these guys would be an improvement on Keir Starmer? Or do you think they would go even more left? You've got Angela Rayner that was pandering towards the Islamophobia laws. She was trying to bring them in. She's also a former housing minister who imposed that you pay stamp duty tax, but decided not to pay it herself. She doesn't give a crap. And having her represent the country, and again, I don't like to make a judgment on the way that they act, but she's a bit, you know, it's a bit, I wouldn't want her. David Lammy, guy's got 1 brain cell floating about. It's coming quite likely that he's probably going to lose his only brain cell. That guy is thick as mints. Ed Miliband, he bankrupt the country. Ed Miliband has been the leader of the Labour Party before, and he never got in because people weren't that stupid enough to vote for him in. Wes Streeting, a left-wing nutter. All of these people, none. You don't want any of those to replace him. So sometimes it's like, be careful what you wish for. And rightfully so, I'm on that. I want Keir to go, but I don't want the Labour to stay in power. I want them out and a general election to be called. So then we can find a moment where we can have somebody else in, because another Labour plant and another one of these could make it even worse. Imagine thinking that it could get even worse than Keir Starmer. And it could, under those candidates that we just spoke about. Think about it. Nikki Foros, to be honest, Starmer is the best out of those names. It pains you to say, but I would say the exact same thing. That's the thing. Think about it. Out of any of those, Starmer actually is the better one out of all of those other options. That's it. But it might be a sake of going another step backwards, Angela Rayner nuking the place, and then, well, then it would just be too much, and then people would call it general election. Well, I don't have to be forced into one. Rupert Lowe, only man for the job. I'm interested to see where he goes politically. Right now, he's independent, but yeah, I mean, I think the perfect scenario is, again, that's something that always pissed me off with reform, is getting rid of Rupert Lowe, actually. And again, a lot of maybe some reform supporters may come at me and say, well, he needed to go. I think that was bad to get rid of Rupert Lowe like that. I think he's a great MP, actually, and probably one of the better MPs with Inside the Commons. Asks great questions. Does this national grooming gangs inquiry right now? Fantastic. I love what he does, and he really has his heart in the right place. He truly, this guy's a retired businessman worth millions. Doesn't take a wage from Parliament. Donates it every single donates every single month to charity. And that's something you like, literally giving his life. He's retired, where he should be chilling out, enjoying the spoils of war that he's earned through business. But he's in there in the right place and wanting to make a change. And I think a lot of parties are missing out on getting Rupert Lowe into a position. If I was the Tories, I mean, it's a sunken ship, but if they wanted to really spice themselves up, then Rupert has principle, and he likely wouldn't join the Conservatives or something like that. But Advance UK, on the other hand, that would then make Advance a real proposition, which would probably anger a few people with on the reform side. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Apparently Miliband or Mahmood are favorites. God help us all. I've heard about Mahmood. Yeah, she seems like a Starmer loyalist in a way, though. She's always standing by Starmer. Miliband, I heard about this morning, sources close to him saying that he wants the position. That guy knows nothing. Miliband is up there with the weirdest. And do you know what they said this morning about Ed Miliband taking that position? They said that Ed wants to model himself on Zoran Mamdani and the way that he acts in New York. Insane, right? Rupert Lowe is PM material. The rest are timid old men. I think so. I think he is, actually. I like Farage in a way as well. I think he's good, but yeah, it's interesting. I want to see the full manifesto when Reform publish it as well, and whatnot. I think there's a lot that needs to go our way to really make great again. There's still a long way to go, but Reform are definitely the most realistic and best option right now for sure. Yeah. Mahmood. Where's Guy Fawkes when you need him? Okay, so we either have a communist or an Islamist. We really have no party, do we? No. And that's why there would have to be a general election. You'd have to have a general election called 100%. Parliament reset is the only answer. Let the parties fight to leadership. The best party may win if there is one left. Yeah, the next move for all of us is general election. That has to be the case. But I've just realized, guys, that I've been rambling on for about half an hour. So I'm going to go. But plenty of content coming our way. But just to conclude, Morgan McSweeney has resigned from his position. And my question to you as we finish off, will Starmer be next? Yes or no? Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. Look after yourself. And sorry again, the camera died whilst I was through it. It's charging. We'll sort it out. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.